Welcome back, everyone. Let's take a look at the next topic, which is called homeostasis. Now, in order for homeostasis to take place, there are typically two types of feedback loops. There's a negative feedback loop, and there's a positive feedback loop. Um, these feedback loops, let me give you an example of a common feedback loop that everyone has in their home. You have a thermostat that may be in your living room or dining room. And let's say it is winter time and you have the temperature set at 72 degrees. Now, if it gets a little chilly and it drops down to, let's say, 40 degrees, and the temp outside, and then the temperature in the house maybe 65 degrees, the heat is going to go on. And the heat's going to go on to go from 65 to 68 to 70 to 72. Once it hits 72, the thermostat says, okay, great, let's shut down. And then it stops. It blocks it. If it gets down to 70 degrees, then it kicks on again. Okay, and that works the same way for air conditioners or heat. The thermostat is a classical negative feedback loop, right? It brings the opposite. Within the body, a negative feedback loop could be you're exercising at the gym and you get real hot, so your body sweats to cool it off. Maybe a negative feedback loop is you're having dinner, you have pasta with bread, and then you have a dessert, and then you have soda with it. All of a sudden, your glucose and blood sugar go up, so your body wants to lower it, so it sends messages to the pancreas, and the pancreas pushes out insulin, and your blood sugar goes down, right? That's a negative feedback loop. So negative feedback loops are most of the feedback loops that we have in the body. It basically, if your heart rate's going too high, it's designed to lower it. If your blood sugar is too high, it's going to lower it. If your body temperature is too high, it's designed to lower it. Or if it's too low, it'll raise it, both directions. A positive feedback loop is typically found in like emergency situations, like labor and delivery. Think of what happens when a woman's in labor. She is saying, ouch, right? Maybe not ouch, but maybe some moans and groans and screaming from the discomfort of the uterine contractions. So she's experiencing some pain. And from the pain signals go up, and the brain is going to push out some more oxytocin. And oxytocin is going to go to the uterus and make the uterus contract even more. The more contractions makes the woman more uncomfortable. She's screaming again, she's uncomfortable, and then more oxytocin is produced, right? So it's bringing on more in the positive direction. Whatever she's experiencing, it's going to bring more of it on. That's a positive feedback loop. And it only stops after delivery. Otherwise, it keeps on bringing on the same. Positive feedback loops are necessary. Some of them can be very dangerous. So let me show you one that could be dangerous. So within the human body, let's look at a cross section of an artery. So this is the lumen where blood is flowing. And then this layer is smooth muscle. And we know smooth muscle can constrict or dilate. So the second layer is smooth muscle, and then I'll make a third layer going around it. This is elastic. So these are three layers. We have one, layer 2, and layer 3. This is the cross section of an artery. The internal layer is called the tunica interna. The outer layer is the tunica externa. And then the middle layer is the tunica musculosa because it's smooth muscle. And this can constrict or dilate. Now, blood is flowing through here. Now, let's say You are consuming vascular irritants, right? Vascular means blood vessel. So you have vascular irritants. Let's say the person's a smoker. Smoking is a vascular irritant. Alcohol consumption. Alcohol is a vascular irritant. Fried foods. Fried foods is a vascular irritant. High blood sugar. High blood sugar is a vascular irritant. So what that does is it's going to damage the tunica interna. So right here, these cells start to degenerate. They start to break down. Okay. So what ends up happening as a result of that is now this tunica media, the muscular layer, starts to invade and it starts to move inward where the lumen was. Now, in the lumen, this is where blood is supposed to flow. So we have blood in here and we have cholesterol, and the cholesterol doesn't just stay here in the lumen, but it actually goes in to the deeper layers here. So we have cholesterol that's actually damaged. So I'm going to put an X here. These are all damaged cholesterol. Why is it damaged? Well, it was healthy cholesterol to begin with, but because they smoked, they had high blood sugar, their alcohol, their drink antibiotics, medications, drugs, they damage the LDL cholesterol. So they become oxidized. And whenever they become oxidized, your immune system attacks them. And these immune cells start to really kind of protect. They start to wall it off. They start to wall off the cholesterol. And now look what happens to the lumen. The lumen, let me change the color here. The lumen is now what we're left with is this jagged portion. It should have been nice and round. And now as blood is flowing through this narrow constricted lumen, the body thinks you got stabbed or shot because it's so turbulent as it's flowing through this. It's turbulent. So what the body does is it starts to lay down these proteins. And these proteins are clotting proteins called fibrin. And what's going to happen is a positive feedback loop kicks in, and it's going to keep laying down fibrin, fibrin, fibrin. Fibrin is going to keep laying itself down until, guess what? Until the blood stops flowing, until a clot forms. Now, if this clot, if this blood vessel is going to the brain, now they had a stroke. If this clot is going to the heart, now they had a MI, a myocardial infarction, or a heart attack. Okay, so that's a little bit of information on positive feedback loop and how, in this case, it can actually kill people, especially that have these poor dietary habits. Again, just to make this really clear for you, right, here's the inner lumen, the tunica interna. Here is the smooth muscle layer, the tunica musculosa, and then here's the elastic layer on the outside. Now, what most people think is that cholesterol builds up in this lumen, but it doesn't. Cholesterol sneaks in back here. Cholesterol gets stuck back here. So if this is cholesterol and this becomes damaged, we'll put an X in there for oxidized cholesterol. This is your LDLs that get damaged. All of a sudden your immune system attacks these, and these create foam cells, and you get this lipid pool. You get this pooling of lipids in this area. It gets walled off, and when it walls it off, this wall starts to push inward, and then you're left with a lumen that becomes very restricted, right? Now you're left with a lumen that's that in shape because of the lipid pooling that takes place. Right? Most people think cholesterol accumulates in here. It doesn't happen that way. It actually goes into the deeper tissues. Okay, when we come back, we'll talk about thyroid and parathyroid function.